Hey guys, how's it going? We're gonna be making a different type of video today. Today I'm gonna be giving my testimony, just talking about me, my relationship with God, how it how it started, like the origin story, that's what we're gonna get into. You know what I'm saying? How I got locked in. Okay, so for me personally, I've always believed in God, like growing up, my family, we would go to church and stuff like that. So like I knew of God, and my mom, my grandma taught me how to pray and stuff like that. I say to pray before you go to sleep and stuff like that. So so I would talk to God, I would pray to God and stuff like that. But my relationship wasn't that strong with Him up until junior year. But before then, I'll still pray before I go to sleep. I'll still pray and stuff like that. But I wouldn't really read the Bible and stuff like that. I wouldn't really see Bible verses or stuff like that on social media because I would just, when I'm on social media, I would just look at the funny stuff. But I was more on the sense of working on my body. So I would mostly see working out stuff and stuff like that. So like motivation, workout stuff like that. So junior year comes around. So I was talking to this girl. I really like this girl and stuff like that. So we're talking. I get really close with her. She becomes like my girl best friend and stuff like that. I have feelings for her. And then I had a big group of friends. Like my group of friends took up like two lunch tables. So and I was like the center of this friend group. I was individually close with everybody in the friend group, and maybe you could say I idolized the friend group because like they were like the only reason why I like going to school. Like honestly, like at that point, like that would be like that was the main thing. That's the only reason I like to go to school because I would go to school, I have classes with them, I would have lunch with them, and it was a lot of us, and it just felt like it was a tight knit group. We were all close because it was my friend group and then my other friend's friend group put together. So it was like a big friend group. And I was close to everybody in it for the most part. And so just going to school, seeing them, then after school, we'd all text in the group chat like every day. And it was just like my main source of happiness at the time, just, talking to them. And I was just really close with them. And then so basically, the girl or whatever, and then she started trying to talk to people from my friend group, and it kind of got a little messy. Then I ended up leaving the group chat. Then that distanced me from some of my other friends within the group chat because I'm no longer in the group chat. So and then I didn't have class with all of them, and then it kind of just created division. Like that situation kind of created division, and so it was kind of like it was like you didn't want to pick a side, but it forced some people to pick a side. Some people kind of fluctuated between the two groups, and it was just really weird. But when I had that was my main source of happiness was that friend group, and then when I lost it, it kind of felt like I lost everything. Like it felt like my whole world had just got flipped upside down, and it was just like dang. And then also the people that I didn't get to see as often in the group chat, it was just hard because I'm like, dang, I don't really get to talk to them like that, and just just in the morning we would all sit together at breakfast, literally walking into school, breakfast, bro. Nobody was at the table we would all sit at. I would only talk to a few people at lunch compared to talking to everybody. People kind of just did their own thing, and I just took it really really hard. Like losing the friend group that was hard, and leaving the group chat that was really hard. But then also the girl, I lost the friendship. I lost the like someone I seen to as a potential partner, so that also sucked too. So it just felt like a whole bunch of losses happening at once, and I was just like, dang. I feel like I've always been the type of person that's been a pretty positive person. I've never really been sad or depressed really in my life, but that was like the first time like I felt like that. Like maybe I was depressed or like we're just really really sad, and but I would still try to do things that I like to do. Like I would still like I'm pretty sure like I was still streaming and making videos. I was still editing. I was in volleyball club at this time, so that was really fun, and I made new friends with that. Just had a club. Um, I think still making music. I think that's what really got me more into making music was that allowed me to have a way to vent. So I started making music how I felt about the situation. So if you go back to my old music, it's like really like sad and depressing. I ain't gonna lie, but it was like a healthy way for me to cope, and I was still working out and stuff like that. And but I was just really sad all the time. Like I was like crying almost every day, just like thinking about I would dwell on it a lot, and it was just like I've never been that hurt before. I feel like I've had bad things happen in my life or whatever, but I felt like that like affected me like emotionally and mentally the most. I think losing that friend group really just, just all the loss at once, the friend group, like the girl, like all at once, it just really took its toll. And I'm trying to like, mask like I'm okay and stuff like that, but it's just like I ain't gonna lie, I'm not that good at hiding my emotions. Like you can, for the most part, you can tell like how I feel, like if I'm mad or if I'm sad or if I'm not good at hiding my emotion or whatever. But I would try really, really, really hard to mask. Like I'll try really, really hard, and just just going with that, just going through the motions with that. And it was just like but I had my friend Javi, shout out to him. Like he really helped me a lot because he was always there for me, and also Romaine too. He was there for me a lot during the situation. And it was like with them, I didn't really have to explain because they were there. They knew all the details. They knew everything, and they would just allow me to vent to them about it. And I know I did talk a lot about it because it was like, honestly, it was like the only thing on my mind, and I would dwell on it a lot. So I would talk about it a lot, and then they would always just have a lend an ear for me, and they were always there for me. They never told me like, shut up, bro, or all right, bro, get over it, stuff like that. They would always just allow me to, you know, just have a shoulder to cry on, an ear to, yap to, and we would just hop on the game and just help me get my mind off of it and talk about it and stuff like that. So that was like a really big help. And then I started going to Bible study. Javi, his parents started doing Bible study at their house, so I started attending to that, and started going to that and just learning more about God, learning more about the Bible. Was really nice. And also just like the fellowship too. Like my friends was there, and we would gather, we'll talk. And also his parents, shout out to them. They really helped me a lot, and just allowing me to vent to them and to cry to them and stuff like that. Um, that definitely really helped. And I just remember it was still hard even while going to the Bible studies. It was still really, really hard, and just going through the motions of everything. And I'll talk to my family about it. They'll be there for me too. But I don't know. I just kind of feel like they, I sometimes I guess they just didn't really know what to say, because like I'm saying, like I never went through through something like that. And I'll go to my family about it. But eventually, I guess some people get tired of hearing it and stuff like that. So the main people I'll go to about it was my friends, and my friends' parents at the Bible study and stuff like that. They would pray for me, and I was like, oh my gosh, I do not like crying in front of people. Like I like, bro, like I really, even though like there's nothing wrong with crying. Jesus wept. I agree. Men can cry. If you're a man, you can cry, bro. But that's something I like to do in private. I don't like to cry in front of other people. But it was like times where I just couldn't help it. And then just the Bible study environment, they never made me feel judged. They were like, yo, it's okay. They'll pray for me, stuff like that. So that was like, I needed that. And I just remember, just I don't think I'll ever forget this day. I remember I was in the shower, and I was just like, God, like I tried everything. Not everything, but like I've tried to use the things that I like that usually makes me happy, to be happy, but it's just not working. The editing, the volleyball, the videos, the music, whatever, like the worldly things, it wasn't working. And I'm like, God, I don't know what to do. I need you. I was like, God, I need your help. Like, God, I need you, because it was like I feel like I honestly at that time I felt like in life I truly hit rock bottom. Like if I feel like to describe rock bottom was that during that time, like it was bad. Like I literally remember, like there's literally this picture of me in math class doing my freaking test, and I just look out of it. Like that was during that time. Like, oh my gosh. But it was just like, yeah, I remember saying that prayer to God, and I feel like that's when things slowly but surely started taking a turn. Just still just going to the Bible study, still just doing me, still working on myself, and just praying more, getting more into my word, learning more about God and stuff like that, and just going to him and just praying to God, even just by myself, just like, God, just how I'm feeling, and just laying it all out to God, and just pouring my heart out to God, like, God, what I'm going through. God says he's close to the brokenhearted. And then so that's why I try to keep God close. I'll pray to him and stuff like that. And you know because before then, I ain't gonna lie, I felt like I was going down a rough path. I feel like I was starting to become a bitter person, a colder person. I'm telling you, I know it. And especially coming from a person that has always been like a positive person, especially, like, if you know me, in real life to see this. They see this, but yeah, it was really hard, and just I could just tell because just like so I felt like I was a good person. I would always do right by people, but like why do people do wrong by me type of thing? And it's like I didn't understand, and that was like something I couldn't get my mind around, and it was like like the wrench in the gears that wouldn't it couldn't turn, and it was just like making the smoke, and so it was like, yeah, I could feel it. Like I was starting to become a negative person. Like I was just sad all the time, and I could tell like I was going down a wrong path. But thankfully, I got derailed through God and my village and the people I had around me. But at that time, honestly, felt like there was no light at the end of the tunnel. That's what it felt like. If I'm being honest, that's what it felt like. It felt like things weren't going to get better because they were because it's like, yeah, like I'm saying, I never went through nothing like that. I've never been that sad in my life, so it just felt like it felt really heavy, and it felt like things weren't going to get better. But doing the Bible studies and having my friends and my family, I started to feel, I started to see the glimpse. If it looked far, but I could see the glimpse, and then I just kept going with God and the Bible studies and stuff like that, and then the light got brighter and brighter as I got closer to the end of the tunnel, and it didn't happen overnight. I don't remember exactly how long, but it took time. It wasn't overnight. It wasn't a couple days. It probably wasn't a couple weeks. Maybe not even a couple months. Maybe it was that third, fourth month. Maybe that fifth month that things really started to get through the storm. And and even at the Bible study, I would give my testimonies, and I feel like they can see the growth in me, especially like how I was at that time. It's so long ago they may not even remember, but I feel like I will never forget that. And at the end of the day, if that stuff didn't happen, will my relationship be the way it is with God right now? I don't know. Maybe not, because that rock bottom that I fell to is is what caused me to look up at God. That's what caused me to look up at God. So I feel like sometimes we have to go through the bad things to get the things that we need. Sometimes God has to break your heart to save your soul. And honestly, if I had to do things over and I had to go through that again to get where I'm at right now, even though it sucked really bad, I would do it. Get where I'm at right now, I would do it. And I feel like sometimes that's why God doesn't always reveal his plans for you, because sometimes you're gonna have to go through some crap and eat crap sandwiches to get to where you need to be. So, but yeah, and you know, right now I can't really complain. I mean, I can, but life's been cool. Still focus on God, and I'm not perfect. Just because you see me on this video, I'm not. I'm really not. I'm human just like you. I fall short to the glory of God all the time. But it's really about your heart posture and your faith. I know that God got me. Jesus died on the cross for me, and I just got to do better. It's not about how many times you fall. It's how many times you get back up. When you fall, that's an accident. But when you stay down, that's a choice. So I don't care what you did a minute ago, a second ago, an hour ago, a day ago. Honestly, that don't matter. You know, if you decide that you were born through Christ and He's cleansed you from your sins, then that's true. You know, but yeah, and I feel like I've grown a lot as a person, especially my relationship with God and just my knowledge on the Bible, my knowledge with God, and just being able to go to God. And I feel like a very, oh my gosh, another big thing recently. My great grandmother had passed away recently, and that was hard on me and my family. It's one thing going through something yourself, but like I also having it affect your family and having to be there for them and try to be strong for them. It's hard. That was very hard. I've never went through that in my life. I've never had a close loss ever until then. So that was really hard, but I could tell that it did it did break me. Like it did break my heart, but God kept the pieces together. God kept the pieces together. I'm telling you for a fact, I know that if I didn't have the relationship that I have with God and my family and my friends and just that community, it would have destroyed me. Especially God. Especially God, I know it would have destroyed me. Because I feel like I could feel it, but I know I wasn't feeling it to the full extent because I was giving it to God. Give it to God. And I would pray to him, I would cry to him, and I would tell him I was feeling. I would pray, I would stay in my word, and even though I was sad, I would cry or whatever. I like my foundation was strong. You have to let God be your rock, let God be your foundation. When you build your house on a strong foundation, it doesn't matter how strong the storms, the wind, the hail, the rain is, that house will not come down. And I was rooted strong in God, and I was able to get through the storm. You know, God was my shield. You know, I did get some scrapes, but all the major wounds I was shielded from. I was shielded from. And I just give glory to God for that, because I know that God was the only thing keeping me intact. I'm telling you, I felt it broke, but it was still like the pieces stayed together. If I didn't have God, I know it would have broke. The pieces would have went everywhere. Would have went everywhere. But it was kind of like this. It kind of did that, but it was still there. It was still there. And then it slowly mended itself back together. But if God wasn't there, I'd have been like this. I would have been done. I'm telling you, I know for a fact. I know for a fact. But that's my testimony. I just want to come on here and try out a longer form video, because on this channel I usually just do shorts. But I did want to give my testimony. I feel like it's been on my heart for a minute to do it, and I don't know, maybe this could help somebody hearing this. So I just want to come on here, give my testimony, and just talk about my relationship with God, how God has honestly saved my life and helped me in so many ways. And but I think that's gonna wrap this up. I feel like that's the main gist. I feel like I hit all the main points. I feel like this is the most I've went in depth of talking about my testimony, like past the situation. But it was nice to talk about, because that's my story, and it just shows glory to God how good he is. So with that being said, I love y'all. Stay in your word, stay encouraged. If you did enjoy this, and you want to see more God related content, subscribe, like, if there's anything you would want to say in the comments, you can do that. But without further ado, we're gonna see you on the next one.